don't tell anyone, but we're getting my mom a new TV for Christmas, and then we can download the app.
Oh, I have your mom's email. I'm going to send her. No, I don't have your mom's email. So
I tried to explain to her what we were doing, and she didn't understand. But when she gets a new TV, I can turn it on and be like, you stay here, and I'm going in the basement. And
that'll work.
Yeah.
So, yes. And welcome everybody to Tales of the Film Set, where we share all the funniest stories that we've had from many, many years in the film industry, the good, the bad, and sometimes the very ugly. Alongside me is my far better co-host and now permanent co-host, also tough, Jasmine Block-Krempels. We may have a woman named Jennifer coming on in a little bit. I'm just waiting to hear about that. But if she doesn't, that's okay. The two of us can carry it anyway, because Lord knows we have.
All right, I'll represent.
Yes. I'm going to represent the north side. You represent the south side.
That's it.
By south, you mean a little further south in Jersey, but not by much.
I'm too far south, man.
I know.
This is not where I belong.
So we are now more or less in a shutdown because the holidays are upon us. The film industry is shut down until pretty much January 2nd or so is what I'm hearing. Some shows I think are running tomorrow. I think The Equalizer, the new show on NBC, still has another day tomorrow, and I think For Life does too. But by and large, everything is done at this point. It's a weird little vacation because no COVID tests, no film days, no hearing really, really weird, dialogue and trying to understand how it works in the grand scheme of the whole shebang. But anyway, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I am fortunate enough to have paid vacation on my nice, on my teaching job. But I was actually thinking that for people who really had no work until September, most of the productions weren't up until September. You really only got in like a quarter of work, and then there's just no pay for like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and I think that's something that's very interesting. There's no paid time off. I don't know of any sets paying anyone the week that you're not working. Like, you just don't, it's like, hey, Merry Christmas. Don't run out of money.
Exactly. Yeah. Good luck to you. Hope you do well.
Yeah. I hope you're scheduled for when we come back. Cause that's so weird for an industry that has millions and millions of dollars, but it's just kind of the way it is. I've been fortunate enough to never have to deal with unemployment, but I think you can put in for unemployment the week you don't work. I'm just totally ineligible for any unemployment as long as I'm still a teacher. So, but I know people that, that's their lifeline right now, especially since you really only had 12 weeks of work. And now it's like, well, back to the grind.
That's the weird thing because in this case, yeah, I am actually technically speaking on New York unemployment because the production shut down during the summer. So I did get on there and was fortunate that actually that whole like $600 a week additional. I mean, that was glorious.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So it's because it's a 1-year cycle. Technically, I'm still actually on unemployment right now. So I just log in every week and be like, yes, I've worked more days than basically you'll pay me. I've earned more money than you'll pay me.
Right.
No, I'm not, you can't give me any money.
But I mean, I think you could get it for probably this weekend, next week. Cause there's, unless you somehow worked every day, I'll tell you what, I've learned the plight of the weather. We had some snow last week, but I was scheduled for a park exterior, which I assume was not with snow because as soon as that came up on the forecast, they're like, oh, we're just going to push it back a couple days. But then it snowed like 8 inches. That doesn't disappear. In my mind, I've seen some funny things disappear. Like set dressing has been like, like, oh, there used to be like, a flower bed there and all the flowers were like ripped out. Like, but one thing you can always add snow, you can't take it away, especially on those wide shots.
Yeah, and it's funny. I don't know about where you are, but by me, that snow does not want to leave.
It was like dense, and it was a lot. I think it's supposed to like rain on tomorrow or Thursday and it'll be gone. So I was rescheduled for. I can't believe it. I got a Saturday. So hopefully it won't snow again because then that's like But really, it's like, well, that was my only day of work that I had scheduled, and it just kept getting pushed and pushed. So if that had been my only income, that would be like pretty dicey. Like, God, I would have had to get back on unemployment. But
That's why so many of them are so scared right now, because they're not getting anything. Now, we are fortunate that apparently there's supposed to be like a $600 check being sent or something. So a lot of the, the starving actors, as they call it, will at least have some sort of a lifeline. But what's interesting,
I tell you what, though, $600 doesn't go so far around here, especially if you got a mortgage or two mortgages or like a nice apartment that you rent. I think in some parts of the country, $600 will get you, that's like your rent. It's kind of a joke here in the Northeast, but I'm fortunate to not be in that situation. But I know a lot of people that, especially musicians, since I'm a musician, a lot of people at the highest levels, like playing Broadway, touring with big acts, they put the instruments away and said, I can't wait any longer. I need to have another career. Which is really sad, because they will be the last thing to come back. And Broadway actors too are like, they're all trying to get TV because there's nothing.
My father-in-law actually has a blues band in New Jersey.
Okay.
So we were fortunate. We were down about a little over a year and a half ago. We were down in Memphis. He was actually, in this case, their band represented New Jersey in the International Blues Competition. So they would do clubs throughout New Jersey and these bars. 75-year-old man, 76-year-old man, and he's still closing bars at 2:00 in the morning. He has been bored out of his mind.
Oh, it's not good.
Because they're not getting together. They can try and do some kind of like a Zoom call, get together. But he plays drums. His wife does not let him play drums. Not good at all. His wife does not let him play drums in the living room here.
Right.
So it's kind of funny because of the fact that they're just like,
my band has not played. We did a lot of outdoor stuff, pretty late in the season. Like, we would never have considered playing outdoors at the end of October, but you go where the paying gigs are. And we did play Halloween weekend. And then it was just like, guys, I can't feel my hands. Like, I can't feel my hands to put the stuff away at the end of the night. I think we got to just like lay it down. But it is, it's a weird feeling to not make music live. Like, there's the internet, there's still too much lag, there's too much latency, depending on how geographically far away. Technically, if everyone was in the same house on the same Ethernet connection, you could play together on Zoom, or there's a couple different softwares that are coming out. But other than that, you're kind of at the mercy of the latency, and it's like really frustrating because you can't hear the other people. You can only really hear yourself, and then you're like, they're 5 seconds behind you. So everyone's just kind of throwing in the towel and being like, you know what, we gotta practice outside or just wait. But it's a weird time to be a musician. I'm really grateful that that New York's film production came back, because I really didn't have any. And to me, like, being on set is like the lowest level of stress in a performance, because I'm just being like,
we can be a little overpaid for the amount of work.
Oh, that's not, I don't want to say anything, but it's like, hey, follow these instructions. Oh, okay. Like, I can hear, like, I have my hearing, I have, common sense. I'll just follow these instructions, but I don't have to like play a certain solo at a certain time or remember how a song goes. It's just like, no, do the same thing over and over again. So to me, I'm like, this is great. I'll do this like all day. And it's like, something to do. But I was so happy to just like watch people. I don't know about you. I don't know when your first day on set back was, but for me, I was just so happy to like watch people walking around, and like people watching was a thing I missed and I didn't realize it.
There was a lot of excitement, I noticed, from a lot of crew people, because it had been a 5 or 6 month layoff. Now, my first day back was September 15th. That was the first day that I went back. That didn't include the COVID test or anything like that. That was just, courtroom gallery on Ghost. So, and then after that, it was still a solid literal month before I did another day after that. So it was a long time. But like I said, the energy and the excitement of everybody being back together again, that family unity, they back to normalcy. Now at this point, they've been together for a couple months. They all hate each other again.
Right.
But, because the novelty wore off, and now you're just like around these people 24/7 almost, and you just hate each other's guts, and that's just how it rolls.
Right.
But it's been nice. It's been a good experience that way. I was standing in on there's a new NBC show called Girls 5 Eva. It's Tina Fey, Robert Carlock. She's got two shows going at the same time on NBC. And yeah, the energy and the excitement these guys had of just being together, and like every other Tina Fey show, like 30 Rock, Kimmy Schmidt, you have that dialogue that's just a little bit off kilter. And you're like, all right, we're shooting what today? All right, I gotta watch this. And you can hear, as the principal actors are doing their lines, even in rehearsal, you can hear the crew snickering and laughing. And that's just the feeling of like I said, how it is on those sets, where they're happy to be back. They're excited because they've worked along a little bit, and now they got a couple of weeks off, and they're on a film set, which is honestly pretty funny. So I
feel like a lot of those people too, like, you and I can broadcast on Zoom together, and like we're doing something. Can you imagine if your job is to rig cables? Like, you're not just rigging cables for fun, like around your house. Maybe around Christmas, you pull out the special stuff, but like really, there's not a lot of other applications for a lot of these trades. I privately teach a family who the father is a Broadway electrician, and he'll set a show up, however long it runs, great. He'll go back and take it down, whether it's a tour or it sits there for 10 years and whatever. Well, for a while, he had a lot of like takedown orders where he just went and cleared a bunch of shows out, but there's nothing left to do. So their Halloween spectacular this year was great, with all the pulleys and wires and things. I mean, literally, they had nothing else to do. But the same thing. It's like, what do you can't transfer from like on-set electrician to, oh, I'll fix your your electrical box in your house. Like, those aren't the
my TV's on the fritz. Can you do something about that?
Right. Hey, yeah, I think I got a problem with my floodlights in my kitchen. Can you take a look at that? And I think at least for performers, there's a couple different outlets, whether you end up doing something live outside. I know over the summer, I found a theater that was doing, they built a stage behind the theater in their parking lot. So I ended up playing for a couple of those shows when nothing was going on. And people were like, how are you getting these gigs? I was like, this is just a theater that I work at regularly, and they needed a saxophone player. But it was like the most glorious 3 weeks. I've never loved Tech Week so much, because it was somewhere to go. There was like actual productivity happening, which is like a thing that I forgot what it's like to get things done. Mm-hmm. So I was super lucky, but I don't know what if you're a wardrobe or a costumer, like what are you doing for your in your quarantine? You can't be like, oh, I made all these clothes that for no project that no one's ever gonna wear.
It's probably catch up on a lot of Netflix and Hulu.
Right. Well, even that's gonna run out. That's why they had to start filming again. They're running out of content. Yeah. So and honestly, like, I am a very small cog in this giant production wheel, but I'm very happy that it's only been minimally shut down for COVID. Like, since it got started, a couple things will close here and there for a couple days, but they never pulled the permits or the plug on any of these things. Yes. I'm sure people heard the Tom Cruise rant.
Yes, they did.
And did not know if you wanted to get into that, but I have some thoughts. What was your initial? I'm neither a fan nor I'm not a fan or a hater, I guess. So I don't have any strong personal feelings towards Tom Cruise in that respect. But what did you think about his delivery?
My take is this. As a person, it's my understanding that Tom Cruise is honestly one of Hollywood's nicest guys. He's a really good personality. He's got a good heart. He is also, I want to say for the record, in my opinion, the best stunt person in North America.
He does his own stuff, right?
His stuff, yeah. At 50 whatever years old, He is still doing his own stuff. So you got Jackie Chan on the East, you got Tom Cruise on the West. So, but my understanding is he's actually a really, really, really nice, kind guy. And when you have something like that, I think it raises more feathers, because it's not in the personality you're used to hearing. So while I do agree with a lot of it, the language could probably have been cleaned up. Obviously, we cannot basically be verbatim on here.
You can find it on the internet if you're really interested.
Oh yeah, you can find it somewhere if you look into it a little bit. But if you look at how COVID is being handled, I can't speak for what it was like on, I think it was Mission Impossible 7. Yep. I can't speak for what it was like there. I can say that with the productions that we've had, it's been pretty strong. They've been very careful on this stuff. I mean, I've been averaging 3 to 4 COVID tests on average per every week. So we, ironically enough, I was allowed into a medical facility recently. They wouldn't allow anybody that was an employee or a client in there. They let me in there.
But you had 8 million negative COVID tests.
Exactly. I was at like 12 for the month. They're like, yeah, you're fine. So
probably don't have it. Yeah.
Yeah, they let me in on that one. So it was actually kind of flattering in a bizarre way. But in this case, if there are things that are happening and if there are things that are being done incorrectly, yes, it can shut down production. This is the big part of it. I mean, yes, you look at the health factors and what it can do to people and killing. I'm not going to deny that for a second. But if there is even an inkling of COVID, production shut down for 2 weeks. That costs money, it costs time, it screws up scheduling on the back end. It's a pain in the neck. So you see so much work being done to protect that. With Girls 5 Eva, I can say this part. They gave you, not only did you have a mask to wear, but they gave you a face shield as well. I mean, they were not messing around on this. So my problem when I was standing in, I was like, well, what do I do? I gotta be able to do a couple things here. Where do I put my face shield? They're like, well, I'll put it over here. But
I was gonna say, you don't put it, you don't see everyone else who has it like backwards on their head.
Oh no, you get.
Oh, this is like serious.
Yeah, they don't mess with that. You get in trouble if you do something like that. If you go even one tiny little iota out of the way, as soon as you show up, boom, COVID test. So last week I had COVID tests on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Every single Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday is when I got the results of my test.
Right.
Because at this point they just email you the results. It's easy that way. But when you have that kind of structure, it's costing the productions money, but it's getting things back up and running again. If something was done incorrectly and he went off on it, I would say the guy's been doing this for 30 years. COVID's weird, but you know what? I trust him a lot to know he knows how to run things.
Yeah, and I think people like to say, oh yeah, that guy's a jerk. Like, how does he talk to people that way? But I don't know. I don't know his contract on that. I would imagine he's got some producing rights on that, on that. By this point, he's involved with the money on the back end, and I'm sure he's putting money in the front. And those aren't cheap films. And like you said, you lose a week, you lose 2 weeks. You're talking about, I presume this happened maybe last week, by the time it leaked out. You're talking about you killed the whole month of December because you're already off for Christmas. And it's like millions of dollars. And will they recoup that money? Probably. It's Mission Impossible.
7.
Right. Right. That might be an indication that they're already in the black.
Yeah.
But I think also that I haven't worked any production more than one day, right? So I haven't worked anything where I got to know the crew well enough to call people by their first names. It's like hard to recognize people's eyeballs because all you can see is like this much. So I haven't, I'm lucky if I can find a second AD that I can recognize and be like, oh yeah, I think that was their name. But I think as you get more comfortable, like crew's been together for, if they've been together for a month, people start to get, lazy about the guidelines. And, it's not cool that you got to talk to people like that. To kind of, and I think it might have went a little bit overboard, but the point was like, hey, don't mess this up for everybody else. Like, and if that was the way it needed to be delivered to like get the message across, I mean, I just imagined anyone else that was like just background standing around there, you're minding your own business, and all of a sudden there's just like this explosion of expletives, and we'd all just be like, I
saw
can't.
That once.
I mean, I've seen some weird stuff that like probably should not have been discussed in front of other people. I know you're gonna ask me what it was, and I don't remember.
I can return in kind with one of my own, but go ahead.
I was working Hightown, and that was a situation where I don't have stars, not gonna get stars, but I know if I had some good screen time, if like 4 or 5 people Facebook message me and say, hey, I think I saw you in Hightown. And one person, I'm like, well, check that it wasn't like a small child. That could have been like not me. But if like 3 or 4 people, if I get a message, it's like, oh, okay. So I got the free trial and I watched it. And that was a situation where it was a female director and a male camera operator. I don't know anybody's name because I'm not very savvy with like industry people.
I usually, if it's a bad story, I try if I can to avoid actual names.
Well, and I don't know the names anyway. But the point was, the director just kept saying, "No, I want the camera movement to be this," and this camera operator was like, "No, I'm doing it this way," and she's like, "Well, it's not. Like, I'm telling you, you have to do it like this." And this is going back and forth. We're all just sitting there. There had to be 50 background. We're just watching this like, yeah. I was like, this is awesome. Like, you tell him off in front of everybody. I will be so happy. She told him to get up and she shot the scene herself.
Wow.
And that was the first time that was honestly the first time I'd ever seen a female operating a camera, which is, you know, pretty sad at this point. You know, I've been at this for 15 years. I've worked even some of the affirmative action sets where you get some sort of, and you might know more about this. I believe the affirmative action set, they use a special contract and they get some sort of tax incentive for having a certain percentage of women and minorities. Does that sound?
Yes.
Yeah, and even then, maybe the camera operator was female, but like maybe not. So that was cool. And then she just told the guy to leave. She's like, "Go to Crafty. I'll do this myself." And the guy wouldn't get up. And we're all just sitting there. I was like, this is getting more and more awkward. And that was a really cool, like, I'm not like a women's empowerment. Like, I'm used to just being, especially in music, it's just usually a bunch of old guys and me. And like, that's just, you want to play in a band or you want to play blues. That's who you're playing with. And that, like, I'm cool with that. But that was the first time I was like, wow, I almost wrote that person an email, except I didn't know who they were. So I couldn't like track them down to write them an email and be like, you were awesome. Like, good luck with the show. But I don't even know how I went off in that but that was like an awkward conversation that should have been like, hey, everyone take 5. We need to have a conversation. But, you know, that didn't happen. What have you witnessed?
There's one that comes to mind is, I don't remember, it was a small budget thing. It was a French-US production. I don't remember even what the name of it is. I could probably find it though. But you had a DP and a French director. And these apparently have collaborated before. So these guys have actually somehow made peace and made things work. But they were sitting there, it's like, you know, and I'm going to have to paraphrase this a little bit. Instead of any F-bomb, I'm going to use the word poodle. How's that?
Got it.
So, you're a poodle Frenchman. I'm from the poodle Bronx. You don't know what the poodle you're talking about. You know, and this whole thing went back and forth with so many poodles. So was that they literally, you know, I was talking to the PA on it. We had like a 7:30 a.m. crew call or a 7:30 a.m. call time. They wrapped us at 10:30 because they're like,
yeah, this isn't gonna work out.
It's like, you know what? We're gonna wrap you after the day. This has happened so many times. We're not gonna get any filming done today. So it was just, we're done. Have a good night. So I was terrible.
Out there. Somebody paid for that day.
I was out of there by 10:30 in the morning. There was a relatively well-known French actor. I don't want to mention the name, but I actually might know it if I did. But it was one of those things that they kept going back and forth. And this guy was just sitting there, just sitting at this table, and just listening in, just sitting on the sidelines and being like, yeah, okay, what am I going to do? And these guys were like, I'm from the Bronx. You're a stupid piece. You're from France. You don't know how things operate here in the city. And they just back and forth. And the PA was just like, stand in the corner. Do not make eye contact. We've seen this before.
Right, avert your eyes.
We've done this before. This happens a couple of times a week. Just don't let them transfer the anger onto you.
That's so weird to me because obviously these are well-known, these are established people in the industry, but to me, that kind of behavior is like not professional and not acceptable. Like, how do you get another job after that? But I guess at some point you reach a level where it actually just doesn't matter. And
what I think it is, I think there's less patience for it now. You know, where I think the bullying tactics used to exist. I don't think, you know, there's this one with Tom Cruise might hurt him a tiny bit. It's not going to hurt him that much because the man's A-list, the man's bulletproof,
right?
Barring anything. But you have the average, say, the working class actor. I'm going to throw, honestly, I'll throw Donnie Wahlberg into the mix. Somebody who's basically well-known, decent, makes a good income. If he had that kind of a meltdown, I think it would hurt his reputation.
Oh, absolutely.
If you had Harry Lennox from the Blacklist, that kind of stuff would hurt his reputation. So the industry, I think, is a lot less patient for that kind of antics. There was somebody that was on a TV show that, again, I can't mention the name, but she used to actually just legit just leave set and go shopping for 2 hours. They're like, where is she? It's like, oh, they literally had to track her down. There was one time she went to a Mets game on the day she was supposed to be playing. Oh, yeah. She would just leave set and do something else. And it was one of those things that they're just like, okay, where the hell is she? What do we do here? It's like, what do we do? I mean, and they would try.
It's awkward because, it's awkward on so many levels. You still have to pay for that day. It's not like, oh, sorry, everybody. It's like, sorry.
In the chat, I just mentioned who the name was.
Yes. I was like, oh, sorry, everybody. Like, you're not, what I think also what people don't realize is once you're, and this goes for everybody, not just background, once you're booked for the next day, and it should be noted that a lot of the crew is on a day-to-day basis. Like, there's the main skeleton crew that's there every day, but in all the departments, they have day players coming in and out, like, and that might be a little bit different now with COVID, but there's a lot of daily work going on where you don't know if you're working the next day.
Sure.
Once you're booked for that day, they have to pay you. So whether you do nothing because somebody walked off, or you shot for 16 hours, which they hope you don't because that's too expensive. That's like you're a finance guy. How have you ever seen a daily budget? Do you have any idea like what the cost is for one day of Blue Bloods? Like I've speculated with people, and we're not even close.
I can't say Blue Bloods, but I can say some shows.
Okay.
Blue Bloods, I would estimate, is probably about $5 million an episode.
Okay.
Because the average.
What do you think they do an episode in 7 or 9 days or something like that?
Usually, yeah, it's a 9-day shooting schedule, business days, weekends like that. And then about 5 million probably is a rough estimate for what it is for most of the shows. So Law and Order, Blacklist, things like that, For Life, those are probably about 5 million. I know for a fact that the Orville on Fox, which is filming season 3, that's about 7 million because it's a lot more sci-fi. Now, I had heard, I don't know if this is true, but I heard allegedly that The Mandalorian was 15 million an episode, which would totally make sense. Because you see,
that's like shooting a small feature-length film.
Oh yeah,
but it's just not too But with the amount of CGI, I would say certainly with the amount of CGI, that's probably more expensive than the real people.
Oh yeah.
At that point is the technology, but a lot of the stuff that films in New York is very much it's just people walking around. There's not a ton of CGI going on. If you're shooting in New York and using that much CGI, you're doing something wrong. Like you probably didn't need to be in New York to do it. At that point.
Boardwalk Empire would do CGI. So I remember they did what a lot of times what they would do is, if they wanted to show an amputee, someone missing an arm, missing a leg, what they would do is they would give them a green sock, like a green screen, but they give it to them, make them wear a sock, and then they would be able to just quick CGI out the leg and just do that. So that was a common thing. See, my hat keeps falling off when I pick it off.
You gotta figure out how to rock the Santa hat.
Look at that. Look at that hair. It's awesome. Talk about some hat hair right here. Anyway, whatever, don't care. But yeah, Blue Bloods, Boardwalk Empire would do that a lot. Some of the other shows would as well. But yeah, on average, I'm going to say about 5 million. It used to be probably more like 3 or 4, but
right.
I think it's the same.
I always wondered. We, in our infinite free time sitting around, we always try to figure out the pay structure for the casting, for the background casting companies, because I don't know if you've heard, but I believe Sylvia Faye is closed.
I've heard rumors of that as well. Yeah.
I haven't their weird paid casting service still emails me to try to get me to sign up, but I'm like, well, what would I sign up for? You guys are pretty sure you're closed, but all right. They paid for a certain amount of free emails to go out.
Well, Disney pretty much killed it because Sylvia Faye was the one that used to handle Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Punisher, all the Marvel Netflix stuff.
Yeah.
So when Disney pulled the plug on those, it killed pretty much like 90% of Sylvia Faye's business there. Now there's rumors that those shows are going to be, coming back up again. There is already confirmed that Charlie Cox, who played Daredevil in the Daredevil series, is showing up in Spider-Man 3. It's already been confirmed, which I think is a good tie into those two universes together. But I don't know. That's probably going to be handled by central casting, I would say.
Yeah, and I'm also surprised, Disney is so big. They have so many productions. How do they not just start their own agency that just deals in casting? They already have a huge Broadway casting department for all their live productions all over the world. I could see them, like, does it even make sense to pay a third party to take care of it? Kind of like NBC for SNL. You work directly, I believe you work directly for NBC if you're
yeah, it used to be a guy named Matt years ago. I can't remember.
Yeah, I looked into that. So I was like, oh, well, I don't have any gigs at night anymore because, yeah. So I was like, well, maybe this is my year for SNL. And I knew someone who works on it pretty regularly. I'm like, hey, like, who do I contact? He's like, he just sent back one word and it was Matt. Yeah. I'm like, okay. And he like, phone number and email. I don't know his last name or anything either. So. I'm mailing it. Well, it was almost like it was a drug dealer. Like, you know.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I don't. That's right. That's why I'm asking you. I don't know. So, and then they're being even more selective this year because their shows are all live with a very limited audience. So I was like, you know what? I'll let the regulars just kind of, it's all right if I don't do it. But it was the same thing. It's like, that's such a big, and also I think NBC, that show specifically is like, do you really want to be going through a third party? Like just deal, and maybe one day that'll be, there won't be casting companies for background. You don't need to audition. Like what? It could literally be a person with a laptop booking people. I don't know. Not really sure what
I don't know. It's probably money that feeds money in other ways. So it's like, you wash my hand, I wash yours kind of a thing.
And that's true too. We've always speculated, like, are they getting paid a flat rate for like whoever, Boardwalk Empire, which was Grant Wilfley, I think. Yes, it's like, okay, do they come to some agreement? Here, this show's going to run for this amount of time. Here's your flat fee. Do they get paid per number of people booked, per number of episodes? Like, I've never seen any of those deals. I don't know anybody in that space, but I would just be curious to see how that business works financially. Like you said, it might not seem like a good idea on paper, but there's some other deals going on.
The pay grade.
Well, that's just it. It's like, we don't even know how we get paid. We get paid from another company that's not the company that hired us. And it's like, this is all shrouded in much mystery.
Yeah.
And I would love to talk to somebody just about how the finances of it works.
I know a guy.
Yeah. You know a guy?
I know a guy.
Some guy. Well, and if they're,
I'll leave if you know him.
That's right. And also, how do they keep beating each other out? When we're like, Sylvia Faye was the world's smallest company. I think it had 2 people in it.
It used to be the biggest one. Too.
I know, but it's like, how does it go from the biggest to the smallest to you still get these multi-million-dollar productions? It's very strange, and it might just be, we had a relationship 20 years ago with, production, and they went back on those relationships and called. But the whole thing to me is very mysterious. And considering that's who's hiring us to work, and I don't know how it works, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I like to know the logistics of all businesses, and I don't understand.
I'll talk to Ali. I'll see what I can find out, because he
there you go.
And Central Casting.
Well, what's he doing now? Is he still not that?
I have no idea. He was the one that booked me for my first ever Blue Bloods jobs. So the one that got me kind of on my father's radar, so to speak. I think I mentioned this last time. Yeah. He was the one that made that happen. There was I actually should mention this story too. There was a day on Blue Bloods in 2011. I borrowed my mother's car because they wanted specifically a tan, sedan, and Mom's car was perfect for that.
Sure.
So brought the car to set. It's my birthday in this case, and it was a really cool day. And I get a phone call from the PA. We need you to come out to your car. Like, all right, fine. I got to move it, whatever it is. I go out there and I see the headlight on the ground. One of the crew vans, I guess the guy driving the van wasn't paying attention. skidded into the car, basically wiped out the side of it, and then came off the side. And this kid was just heartbroken. I mean, he was just so demoralized. I mean, those production paid for it. It wasn't a big deal.
Oh yeah.
But it was one of those things that this poor kid was like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. I'm done. And then of course I'm thinking about this thinking, hey Ma, you know the car I just borrowed?
The one time you asked to borrow your mom's car.
Yeah. And it was funny because it's funny. Mom was pretty cool with it. My father was kind of pissed because he's like, oh my God, really? And he wanted to actually just change the entire fender on the bumper.
Sure. Well, that's funny because that's what.
And mom's like, it's a 15-year-old car. It's got 160,000 miles on it. We don't have to go and just change everything. Let's just buff it out and we'll see what we can do. And the whole thing costs like $80. But it was one of those things that I suddenly had to have a conversation with my parents on my birthday to be like, yeah, here's your bumper.
Sorry. It was totally worth it probably wasn't even $37 back then. It was probably like 35.
It was 35 back then, yeah. The rate to bring a car to set is now $37.50. Forgetting gas and tolls if you get any. It's $37.50 to bring a car to set. It used to be $35. So in 10 years, we've gone up $2.50. Woo!
What percentage is that? It might be not a bad percentage.
2.5. What is that?
I'm not good at that kind of stuff.
14. About 6%.
Well, yeah, that's not good. I think inflation went up higher than, it's like
inflation usually averages about 2 to 4% every year on average.
Right. So there you go. Yeah. So we didn't do so good on that. How many parking tickets have you gotten? Well, picture car.
2 or 3, I think.
That just blows my mind. It's like, hey, this is clearly a film set. Like, it's like weird cars are going the wrong way on the street. There's like a PA supposed to be watching the cars. No.
It's easy money for the city.
It's so easy. Well, they hope that the thing gets lost and then you don't pay and then they can charge you double. I forget what it was. I could tell you exactly what street I was on. I don't remember what production was, but the obligatory 10 picture cars in a row. We all have the thing in the windshield for people who don't know. You do get a Schedule A, or not even anymore. You put at least, which is another sketchy thing, you put your name and your phone number in the dashboard of the car so anybody could call you and harass you. But it's supposed to be like if you need to move your car. And we all went to lunch, and I got a message from like a Facebook message from a person, like I recognize their face, but I don't know who they are. They decided instead of going to lunch, they were just going to nap in the car. They slept in their car, and when they woke up, everyone else but their car had a ticket on it because they were in the car. So you generally can't get a parking ticket if you're like in the car. So I think 8 out of the 10 cars had a parking ticket, and the PA was new, didn't realize, look, you don't go to lunch when everyone else goes to lunch because your job is to watch the cars. Like someone will bring you food, but obviously that didn't get communicated. And that I remember calling production, like probably you just call every day and be like, did you pay the ticket? The website said you didn't pay the ticket. Did you pay the ticket? I don't want to get like my car impounded next time I'm in the city. And it ultimately got taken care of, but it's just like, come on, guys.
I did that. Well, here's what I found. I mean, a couple of productions have done it. I remember the Blacklist. I ended up paying it and they paid me back, which was fine.
Okay.
Also, I think for the record, I think I may have screwed that. I might have screwed that one up myself, but production paid it anyway. So it does happen, but you deal with it, you muscle through. Yeah. And for those of us that live in New Jersey, being able to actually have a place to park in New York is nice. The other day, it's funny, some of the productions out there, to ensure people show up in inclement weather, will pay people the picture car rate to make sure you show up.
I did an entire shoot up in Piermont, New York, which is just south of the ye old Tappan Zee Bridge, which is not what it's called anymore, but that's what it's called.
Mario Cuomo Bridge now, but in Rockland Jackson.
And we thought like, oh, this is going to be like a driving scene. No, they didn't want to provide transportation. They paid every single person $37.50 to drive themselves to set.
Nice. Worked out on this side.
Right. Well, it's like, which is funny because, Piermont is like a nice little shopping town. There's always a place to park, but they wanted to make sure they didn't have the liability of vanning people, because I think you can only put like 6 people in a 12 or 14 person van.
Oh, yeah, good point.
That was, and you know, they used 2 cars, maybe. I don't even know if you saw them, but every single person was a self-report. They don't have to worry about paying. We all got I don't know how they did the travel time, but I mean, it was clearly out of the zone. So we got whatever we got. They sent a crew van back and used the time from that. But yeah, background was self-report, and it was freaking awesome.
And also in this case here, you also got gas and maybe tolls as well.
Yeah, there's definitely no way to get across the Hudson without paying a toll. I mean, that's not true. You can drive really far north.
Well, yeah, way
up, like to Albany, and then come back down the other side. Not worth it.
Basically, for those that don't know, if you're 8 air miles outside of Columbus Circle, they have to pay you gas, travel, and tolls if you bring your car. If you actually just bring a self-report, then they have to pay you travel time for the time it takes from the van to get from, you know, wherever the pickup point is to wherever set is, which usually about 45 minutes for Piermont.
Yeah.
So, but in this case, because of the fact that they also didn't want to have, give any vans or anything, they had to pay gas and tolls at 30 cents a mile, by the way, which is nice.
But so, it's not the government rate. Isn't the government rate 55 cents a mile?
It's lower than the government rate, but I'm not going to pick a fight with that one, because personally for me, it's, you know what, I got to drive, I got to park anyway, I'm getting free coin. Ironically enough, the other day for that other production, even though I was standing in, they still wanted my car anyway. So I just assumed I was going to use the car. So I'm getting paid for the car, for gas and for tolls, which sat in a Zoroastrian temple, which, by the way, Zoroastrian is a Persian temple dating back to like 500 BC. The religion that far back. So we parked it at a Zoroastrian temple. Never used it, but they're paying me like 60 to 70 bucks for the car. And
there's a lot of added costs now that I'm wondering, like, where, like you're saying Blue Bloods was potentially a $5 million an episode. Like, what is a COVID episode cost? And have they slimmed down elsewhere to try to keep it, you know, are we at 5.5 with all the extra COVID tests and extra transpo because you can't have too many people in the van? But did you save money on catering because it's not a buffet? Like, I wondered if they balanced it, or they're just suck it up and they got the money and they just pay.
I think it depends on the production. For Life was kind of a little bit of a skeleton crew because they were real careful as far as COVID goes. Even their shooting style was reflected on how they were trying to protect against COVID. So I think it's up to the individual production and how they're rolling with it. I can't speak for Blue Bloods or Law and Order or any of those shows, but for the most part, with the exception of For Life, it's been more or less the same that way. But yeah, the COVID tests themselves, you got to pay the employees, whatever the contract.
Especially these rapid tests, we are fortunate that if you're asymptomatic and you want a rapid test, any other person in this, at least in New Jersey, I don't know what the laws are elsewhere, it's $200 out of pocket. It's not covered by insurance. And we're getting double rapid test. We're getting 2 swabs of a rapid test on the same day, presuming that the company charges that. That's $400 a person.
Here's what I found out today. This is something I need to find out and clarify. I was under the impression, in order to qualify for pension and health, that COVID tests count as a quarter of a day. Now, I'm hearing something that might count as a full day instead of a quarter, which is a huge bump.
The last I heard, and I will preface this by saying I know a lot about the pension and health, but I don't participate because I don't qualify. The last I heard
with the teachers union anyway.
Right. Well, and believe me, I keep tabs on that one too, because it's the same thing. Like, if you don't pay attention, they're like pulling one over on you.
Fair.
The last I heard was not only was that $100 a day supposed to be pensionable, it's supposed to count for a full day. Now, there's a production that I'm sure I don't even know. It's an HBO Max sketch comedy. That's all I'm going to say. I don't even think it has a name yet. Maybe it does. It doesn't matter. They're lumping they're not giving you money. They're not giving you a separate check for that. They're calling it an allowance. COVID. They're calling the COVID test they're not calling it a day of work. They're calling it an allowance, which allowances, as we all know, or maybe we don't know, are not pensionable. So that's going to be and their rate's terrible to begin with. So
There's another show that does it. That basically, I remember we did plus 100 for COVID.
Yeah.
And I never thought anything different. Every other production I've had you fill out vouchers. I
And,
filled out 4 vouchers the other day for Girls 5 Ever just to stand in on it.
Right. Well, and that's, you know, that's one of those things where it's like, look, guys, this doesn't make a difference to my life personally, but if people don't pay attention to stuff like this, you're losing, you know, if that happens 5 times, you just lost a week of work on your pension.
Well, I mean, here's the one thing I'll say. If it is true that it's one day on this, and barring the one production, which is the plus 100, I'm still coming out on top.
Right. Probably on number of days you're coming out on top.
Oh, yeah, a number of days, because it's 100 days for an entire 12-month period. So I was looking at it from the perspective of only a quarter of a day, which honestly doesn't actually work out that well. But it's a full single day. I mean, my God, last week alone probably ended up being 6-7 days.
I just saw something posted. It was 4 tests for 1 day of work. So that's a full week of work.
That's a good point.
I was like, well, you know, it wasn't, it didn't seem appropriate with my school schedule, but I was like, legitimately, you would make $400 on the testing alone. And then whatever the day was, that's better than a couple straight 8s.
That's what I saw. I did see a couple like that, where it was 2 tests, a fitting, then like a test, and then the shoot test.
And we all know that's to prevent you from taking other work. It literally, and it's not, I'm not saying that as like a jab. That's to keep you off another set where there might be COVID. So if you commit to doing their work for a week, which most of the work is actually testing and a fitting, and then you show up on set for 1 day, they feel like they covered themselves.
It's actually a really good point.
And that, I mean, honestly, that people are angry about the tests, but you have to, I'll put it this way. I work in 5 elementary schools, and the thought of going from school to school 5 days a week during COVID just doesn't really seem like, you know, speaking of exposure, that's a lot of people to like pass through. However, if you think about the amount of per diem work your average background person does, you know, I rarely work on the same show twice. I make the rounds like, you know, especially in the summer, every day I'm on a different set. That's a lot of freaking people to be around. So if you can limit the exposure by just testing everybody and keeping them off. Now, there's people that are doing 3 and 4 tests a day for different productions.
I did 2 in a single day.
I haven't done that yet. It hasn't worked out that way, but I think it will, because some of them only want 2 tests. Some of them want 3 tests. And like, look, if I'm going to be there already, I'll go get tested at the other place. Like, you know, but it's a way for whatever it's worth to limit the amount of people you're working with. And I think it's working, because by and large, everything's still up. Nothing got shut down and couldn't open again.
Things are still rolling. Yeah. You know, I mean, like I said, watching it firsthand, there is so much work that goes into ensuring that how everything is done, limiting the people that are on set. I mean, we have the red zone, the yellow zone, and the green zone, which only allows X, Y, or Z person to be on the set. You know, and
that's even better, because if like usually backgrounds in the red zone, because we don't wear masks all the time, and whatever other crew is in the green zone, if you have a problem with someone in the from the red zone, they never were around people from the green zone. So you don't have to shut down all the departments. You can isolate it. It's actually quite smart. It's just a logistical nightmare.
Some of the productions actually give you a smartwatch, and they track everybody you have been around in case somebody has it.
You know who we need to talk to, and I think he's still working a ton, is, do you know Mike Brower?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we need to get him on here. He's been I know he's out, he's in he might be in Indiana for the holiday.
From Indiana, yeah.
But he said, and you know, he's one of the ones, he said he worked 40 days. I don't know if that's with testing, but since things got up and running, he had 40 days of work. I was like, that's like all of them. That's all the days.
Yeah.
You know, with holidays and stuff. And he was on one with the smartwatch. Mm-hmm. It says it buzzes at you when you're within 6 feet of another smartwatch.
Repeatedly.
It's hilarious, because at some point you're all going to be together. But
that thing buzzed hundreds of times a day, every single day. And it was just like, yes, I know, thank you. Yes, I know, thank you. Yes, I know. And it's like every time you hit it and say accept, it's like, Okay, cool. By the way, you're next to somebody. Yes, thanks. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, it never stopped. It was driving us crazy. I
Well,
wanted
you're
to
like,
take
you
it to
hope the
home.
battery dies and it just, it just peters out by the end of
Mine
the
did.
day.
Mine did on the second day. Nobody cared.
What kind of, what was it?
It was a Samsung smartwatch. It was pretty
I
impressive.
got one of those.
Nice.
I don't have it set up to warn me about people though.
They
must be special software.
Exactly. Well, it wouldn't let us do a lot of stuff, so they really disabled a lot of the options. I wanted to play with it because I never actually had
right.
something.
No, I am a Samsung junkie by trade. I have all the Samsung toys. I couldn't kick the habit with the iPad though, so I'm still split on the iOS and Android. But
I can't get into Apple stuff. So
I tried sorry Samsung, I tried your tablet and the battery life was so bad that I just had to switch. It wasn't functional as a tablet. I had to go with the iPad. Sorry, but I love your phone and I love your watch.
I feel really bad.
Yeah, I do, because I don't like. I had an interesting grad school class about 15 years ago about lifestyle branding, which was kind of just a thing, which it's like very obvious now, but it was like, how is Apple so successful? It's not that they're selling you like a nice looking, there's like good looking stuff. They're selling you a lifestyle of this sleek, like,
the sizzle, not the steak, is the way.
Right, exactly. And after I heard that, I was like, I don't want to be duped. Like, why am I paying extra for all this stuff? But I couldn't. I never got an iPhone. I had a MacBook, and I tell you what, that thing lasted for 12 years. Nice. So it was a good piece of equipment. I couldn't afford to replace it. It was so expensive to replace. I bought an HP. So there you go.
All right.
But I honestly, I think I'm surprised that software that they're using on set hasn't made it into the mainstream. And there might be other industries using it, like factories and stuff, where there's a lot of people. I know they're using, a lot of the Amazon factories are using cameras, infrared cameras that can see when people are standing too close to each other. I don't know what happens after. Like, I don't know if they zap you or whatever happens to you, but they can see where people are congregating and whether it sends out a message or whatever. But yeah, I mean, those can't be cheap, right? You got to buy 100 smartwatches and hand them out and then sanitize them and
every day. Yeah. So anyway, we got to call it here because we are literally, time is up. My God.
Are you okay?
Yeah. We just got the alert from Eduardo. It's like 1 minute. So,
see, this is what happens when we don't see each other for it's been some months. Well, obviously,
exactly.
I haven't seen anybody in months, but even before that, it had probably been a year since we'd worked together. And we get a couple hours to chat once in a while.
Exactly. So.
But we're making up for years here. So
yeah,
we do what we can.
Exactly. We'll persevere. So this show can be heard on 122 different platforms. Thanks as always to ZINGOTV and Barn Burn, the radio network. I appreciate you guys. You are awesome. That's going to do it for this week. Have yourself a great holiday. A Merry Christmas, Kwanzaa, Ramadonica. Have yourself a great Festivus. We'll see you guys next week. I'm going to talk to Mike Brower or Ollie and see what they can do to pick their brain a little bit on some of that stuff. But yeah, thanks as always, Jasmine. I appreciate you being on. You're awesome.
Anytime. Happy New Year.
Yeah. Take care, guys, and stay awesome. Be good.